Hello, hi, this is Srijendra and welcome back to part 2. So this is OpenShift self-healing using Red Hat Ansible automation platforms and EDA. So we'll be using Red Hat Sandbox and OpenShift CRC local cluster and using NGINX to communicate between Red Hat Ansible platform with OpenShift local CRC clusters. So first, this is the lab and we'll create a first project. So to create a project, so we'll go here and just do NGINX scale, and we do organization default. So execution environment, we do default. So we put gate, and for the gate we provide our code. So this is the source code for gate, and we create the project. So once we create the project, so we will configure automation decisions. So before that, we need to create the event stream, decision environment, and rulebook activations. So for event stream, so we need to create some credential. So for example, when you go to this event stream, so for any example, so this is like EDA event, so organization default, and there is a event stream type. So when you do basic event stream, then it asks for credential. So before that, we'll create the basic credential. So yeah, secret and organization default, and do type basic event stream credentials. We use EDA and password Red Hat 123, so any password. So this is the username and password that we will be using to send the credential for any communication between OpenShift CRC with event stream. So and we create the event stream now, EDA event, and we choose the basic event stream, and this is the secret we create. So we have created the EDA event. So once we create the event stream, now we'll create those decision environment. So basically decision environment is used. So in Red Hat Ansible automation platform, decision environment is a containerized image specifically designed to run EDA rulebooks. So we have a rulebooks, and to run those rulebooks, we need a decision environment that has a containerized image, and also it packages the Ansible rulebook binary alongside all necessary dependencies, libraries, Python packages, and event source plugins needed to process real-time events and trigger automatic responses. So for example, so it include Ansible.eda as a collections and PG listeners, which is a plugin. So basically, what is the PG listener? So when you go to those Google's, when you search, so basically PG listener is a plugin that is used for listening those real-time data and alerts using the PostgreSQL. So you can go through and read about what is PG listener and what is Ansible EDA plugin collections. So we'll create the environment, and we do EDA decision, and we default. So for image, we do have a image that is provided by Red Hat. So I'll be using this image, and so you can do our default and for credentials, so we need a credential for this. Basically just create this. We don't need credential over here. So we have created decision environments, and for rulebook activations we also need a credential, because to communicate with rulebook activation with those AAP, we need a credential to communicate. So first we create a credential. So we'll use AAP credential, and default credential type will be Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, because those EDA wants to communicate with AAP, so we need to provide our credential for communication. So basically the login will be the URL. So we'll copy this link, and so we'll also add one more thing. We add this API controller, and username is admin, and the password is this one. So create a credential. So once we create a credentials, we go to rulebook activations. So we create a rulebook. So EDA rule. So also we need to create a project for this one. So first let's create the project. So I've already created those projects. So EDA rulebook. So where I have linked those GitHub. So this is the source, and so this is the default. You have to mention this rulebooks folder. Under rulebooks folder we use rulebook.yaml, so this name should be matched. Yeah, if this name doesn't match, then so it will not pick up those rulebook.yaml. So I've already created the project, so let's create those rulebook activation. So EDA rule activation. So project will be EDA rulebook and rulebook.yaml. So for event streams, so we go so source and EDA event, and here is the Ansible.eda. This is the collection, and PG listener is a that is a plugin. So we'll be using this one, the same plugin that will be have to used in defining those rulebook. So where we are using this one source, where it collects those events, and this is the port that will be using the default port. And for the rules we have used the application down, and so condition is true. For testing we have used condition true, and it will execute this job templates EDA test on condition matched. So this is the playbook, and we have to use the credential AAP credential. So this will be the credential that we'll be using, and decision environment is EDA decision, and that's all. Yeah, so create a rulebook activation. So once we create a rulebook, so it will be start running, and it start listening those any events. So now we go to those configuring those in CRC clusters. So you can see now it's the rulebook is running. So we go to rulebook audit. So there is nothing right now. So you can see the rulebook activation is running, and when you go, we can see the history. We can go here. So it is listening for the any jobs in the any events, and Yeah, that's also now. So we have deployed NGINX applications. So when you see the OCK deployment, there is a NGINX applications, and to monitor these applications, so we need monitoring tools. So basically, those OpenShift has CRC cluster has disabled those monitoring. So we will make this enable. So before starting the cluster, we should do CRC config set enable cluster monitoring true. So once we did do this, and we can do a CRC start, then our cluster monitoring is enabled. So once we have enabled our cluster monitoring, then we can see our, so this pod will be running. So these are the pod responsible for monitoring those clusters, and we have installed the Prometheus pods, so metrics, cluster monitoring. So now, and for our workload, so we need to install our workload monitoring. So when we do, so basically we have OCK pods, and in OpenShift user workload monitoring, so we have this pod running because I have already installed this. I have already installed this cluster monitoring config.yaml. So basically this will have enables user workload true. That means whenever we install NGINX applications, this will be responsible for monitoring those NGINX applications. And for the next things, we go like when you do, so next thing we'll go to enable the Prometheus rules. So there is no Prometheus rules has been configured. So we'll apply the Prometheus rules. So basically in this Prometheus rules, we have configured, this is the NGINX alerts. So whenever deployment is down, then we basically do our replicas 0, then it will generate an alert. So this is a Prometheus rule that will be creating. So we do OC apply, and so when you do OC get Prometheus rules, so we have got NGINX alerts has been deployed. So all these are in demo namespace, like OC project we will do then. So we are using a demo namespace. So Prometheus rules are being installed in demo namespace. So similarly, we need to configure alert manager. So the next thing, we need to configure the alert manager. This is those alert manager is configured. So basically in this alert manager, this is the name, and basically this is those webhook where we generate where we send those any events, any alerts to our AAP sandbox, and this is the webhook URL, and we use username and password to communicate, to send those, authenticate our events to event stream in AAP. So once we configured our event stream in AAP, we get those URL and we put those URL in this alert manager config.yaml with the username and password. So basically I have created the secret for this to authenticate this webhook URL. So when you do, this is our, we have created those AAP EDA, and so we also do OC describe and describe deployment NGINX. So basically in this deployment, we have used the service account NGINX SA. So this is the service account, and we have assigned a any UID So basically, we cannot run NGINX in our OpenShift cluster. So we should use any service account with a role as a any UID. Then only we can run our applications. And we'll be creating a service account and token for AAP as well, so that AAP can communicate our CRC cluster through service account. So we will be using the same service account, NGINX SA. You can use a different service account, but for this demo, I'll be using same service account, and we'll be creating the token. And also, one thing I want to let you know that in this, so we have this is the one of the example that I have used, like deployment scaling down. So basically, this feature is available in OpenShift. So we can scale the pod or scale the deployment. So this is the one of the example for demo purpose that I have used for scaling down those deployment. And once we configured all those things, alert manager config, so we also need to check this one. So alert manager config match strategy, this is the has been configured, and I will back to this one. So as I said earlier, so when you go to those event streams, so this is the webhook URL, so that has been configured in alert manager config. So now we will be creating a job template. So before creating the job template, we also need to create the credential, so that it is able to communicate with AAP sandbox, CRC clusters. So create a credentials. So for like CRC secret. So we go organization's default credential type. We use token. OpenShift. We will be using OpenShift Kubernetes API bearer token, and we need a OpenShift Kubernetes endpoints and API authentication bearer token. So let's go to the CRC clusters. So we'll be using the create token command. So this is the OSHI create token. So for demo namespace, so we'll be to, so this is the token, and we need a API for our CRC clusters. So we are using NGINX, and we'll copy this and also this token. So let's copy this one. So we'll paste over here. So this is our API token. So, and for our APIs, so we'll be copying CRC API from NGINX. So this is our CRC API for NGINX. So once we create this, so we create the credential. So now we create those job template. So create template. So we use EDA scale, and so we need to create the inventory also. So we create those NGINX scale as a project. We need to create a EDA test. So execution environment is a default. So credential is a CRC secret. So let's create those inventory. So I configured the inventory EDA host. So now I create those job template. So in inventory, so you see the EDA host, and there is a host called localhost. So this is the one localhost I have created. So our job template is ready, and our rulebook activation is running.